Today, I wanted to talk about the financial fundamentals of your business, the peers of your business if we think about building a house. And that for me is your bookkeeping. Now, again, I don't think that you need to know how to do the bookkeeping yourself. I think you should have a trained professional who does this process for you, but you need to have an understanding of why the bookkeeping is so important when we're doing anything in our business, and why I refer to the bookkeeping as being the peers of your business. Now, the frustrations I see often with so many trades businesses is that they feel like their numbers are out of control. They feel like they're not really sure whether they're right or not. They may look at a report or look at some information from their Xero and go, oh, that's not right. That can't be right. And ultimately what that does is makes for one very stressed tradie business owner. And that's what we want to avoid. So what I want, and what is totally possible, is that you can feel organized, that you can feel certain around those numbers, that you can look at a report or be given some information and know, yes, that is correct. And ultimately, we want you to feel relieved when it comes to your numbers, because what I hear time and time again from so many tradies is that they just aren't sure. They just feel like they don't have any control. They just feel super stressed. And what I see happen in most instances that is that when they feel that, they then go and work harder, and they think that if they just work more, if they just do more jobs, then all of this will be fixed. And unfortunately, what that usually does is often make matters worse, because if your numbers aren't correct and you maybe not making the profit that you think you should be, and particularly that you need to be, and if you go and do more work, then that compounds and actually makes bigger problems. So there's three things I want to talk about today with your bookkeeping. So first and foremost, obviously you need to be using a bookkeeping system. Now, I have used Xero in my bookkeeping business, Efficient Tradie Bookkeeping, for over 11 years now. It is the only program we use. I feel it is the best program for our trades businesses. It doesn't mean you have to use that. It is just the one that, in my experience, makes it easiest for you. It connects with all the job management systems and makes that all really simple and easy. If you're using something else, that is okay. My first tip, though, is to make sure that it's being used correctly. Now, what I mean by that is that all the functionality within the system is being used efficiently. So if you are using a job management system, such as ServiceMate, Tradify, Build Exact, those types of things, that the information that is coming from that system into Xero connects correctly to all the right spots, and there's no duplication or there's no corrections that need to be made when that connection happens. And I see this so often, that they have the two systems, but they're kind of running independently of each other, which is such a shame, because when you get those systems integrated, it makes a huge difference for your business. The other system there that I like to add, we always add, is a receipt management system. So a receipt management system is a way for the information from your expenses, from your receipts and your invoices when you purchase something, to be captured electronically and put into, for us, we use HubDoc, goes into HubDoc. We've told HubDoc certain parameters around certain bills and so on. So for the most part, that is all automated. And then it comes into Xero with a copy of that invoice or the receipt, and it pre-populates everything in there for us. So we're not doing any data entry. If you or your bookkeeper are doing data entry, then what that tells me is that one of these systems, and one of the systems that you have connected to Xero, needs work and needs improvement. The second thing that I would suggest that you do is have a look and have a think about what annoys you when it comes to your bookkeeping. Now, for some people, they're doing it themselves. Not something I recommend. I recommend you absolutely reach out. Happy to have a chat with you to see what we can offer. At worst, you will get a checklist that you can take and then compare that with other bookkeepers. At best, you would come on board with us and we would audit your system and make sure that everything is connected correctly. If not, we would get it working correctly. And I always joke with our bookkeeping clients that when your bookkeeping system is working beautifully, we actually won't talk to each other very much, because from a bookkeeping point of view, what we do is very transactional. And if all the systems are linked and talking to each other properly, it makes that job a breeze. So if that's not happening for you, please reach out. And the third thing that I wanted to cover off here for you to think about is that you are having the system, you're updating the system regularly. So the first issue I see is that you've got other job management systems and receipt management systems, but they're not talking correctly. The second one is that you're doing it yourself, or that you have a bookkeeper doing it and they're not doing it very well and you still feel out of control. And then the third one is that if you are not super comfortable at looking at your numbers or knowing that when you looked at your Xero that those numbers were correct, then that's a really good indication that that peer of your bookkeeping has potentially a lot of room for work. So what I want you to have a think about, and the question I always ask my Profit First clients and my bookkeeping clients is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being amazing, how excited are you to look at your bookkeeping and to look at the numbers of your business? If you want to run for the hills, you'd be a 1. If you're like, yes, I love it, I sit down every day and have a look at my Xero and everything's reconciled and I know everything is correct, then that would be a 10. The thing is, most people would be a 5 or less, but the problem is they get stuck and they don't know where to go to next. So they just keep on working. They just work harder and get back into that cycle. If I just take more jobs, I'll be able to get through this eventually. And they rely on their bookkeeper or accountant to get their numbers up to date when they get them up to date. That's also something that we want to work on. Your numbers should be up to date at the very minimum once a week. For some bigger businesses, that should be multiple times a week. And for some much larger businesses, that should be every morning. Your bookkeeper should be going in and updating your Xero to make sure that everything is correct. So if the thought of reviewing your bookkeeping doesn't bring you very much joy and actually makes you want to cringe and run away, then that's a really, really good indication that it might be time to reach out. Contact details are below. You will have a conversation with me and I will go through and do a quick review of your Xero file to see and identify any issues that are going to cause more problems down the track. And then I can give you a really clear guide as to where to next and the reasons why we need to do those things. Because when we're talking about Profit First, we can absolutely do Profit First if you're not our bookkeeping client. It actually doesn't matter to me whether you're a bookkeeping client of mine or not. What matters to me is that your numbers are correct. And for me, which is I'll talk about in another episode, it's really important for you to build a really amazing financial team. So your financial team should consist of your tax accountant, your bookkeeper, and your Profit First coach, which I would love to be us. And I will always work with your tax accountant and with your existing bookkeeper to let them know what they need to do, which is very, very little. In addition, if they run Profit First. I always talk about building your financial team. So your financial team is your tax accountant, your bookkeeper, if you have one, and your Profit First coach, which I would love to be me. Now, I will always get in contact with your bookkeeper and your tax accountant when I work with a client. When you run Profit First in your business, it actually makes a very, very little difference to your tax accountant or your bookkeeper. But when those steps aren't being done correctly, or there's no communication with those other members of that team, that can be quite stressful for them if they don't understand the Profit First process. So by making sure that I reach out to them and let them know what we're doing, then it also helps you your financial team is critical to running a successful and profitable business. The problem I find so often is that we have tax accountants who you might speak to once a year to do your tax, and that is it. You might have a bookkeeper that doesn't know that you want your books kept up to date as weekly as it should be, and so they will do it maybe monthly, maybe quarterly, maybe whenever you chase them up. And your financial team is critical to running a financially successful business. Your financial team includes your tax accountant, your bookkeeper, and your profit first coach. And I'm going to talk about more. Your financial team is critical in running a successful and profitable business. Your tax accountant, your bookkeeper, and your profit first coach should all be working together to help you achieve your goals in your business. And that's something I'm going to talk about in more detail in the next episode. For the moment, what I want to leave you with today is have a think about your current bookkeeping system. Are you doing it yourself? Do you have a bookkeeper who does it at the moment, but you're not feeling 100% confident about the numbers? Is your tax accountant doing it for you? But again, you may not be feeling confident about the numbers. I'll have a checklist below of some steps that you can work through with your existing bookkeeper and tax accountant to make sure that everybody is doing what they need to do. So your Xero file is up to date and correct, as I said, at least once a week.